Well, let's get started in the interest of time. Welcome, everyone. I think people will be trickling in and all. If you'll mute your mics, we'd love to see your face, though. If you'd like to keep your cameras on, that's fine. If not, that's okay. But we've got a really good session today. It's our first member drop-in of the year 2023. I'm Craig McAtee, the Executive Director and CEO of the National Coalition of Advanced Technology Centers. Most of you I see on the screen know us or know about us. And just real quick, 35 years ago today, pretty much, we were formed by 2 large tech companies and 9 community colleges in the nation to address the shortage of technician workforce. Imagine that. So fast forward 35 years, we now have over 170 community colleges and across the nation, and almost 48 corporate strategic partners from that 2 that we started with long ago. Over the last few years, our board has really honed in on our strategic pillars, and those are really simply, the top one is all about technology and emerging trends in Industry 4.0 and mechatronics, all those things that you all are working in on a daily basis, I'm sure, with your industry partners and K through 12 pipeline of students. Our second pillar is all about work-based learning, whether it's a full-blown apprenticeship, internship, co-op, or entrepreneurship. We're all focused on that and trying to raise the bar on the numbers of apprenticeships and work-based learning opportunities for students in industry across the country every day. Our third pillar is all about competency-based education. If we can move away from seat time meaning something to a lot of folks and really make it more of applied, technology-driven and oriented for jobs, and if it can be collaborated with the industry-recognized credentials, in a lot of cases, that's even better. So that's our third pillar. But wrapped around those 3 is our fourth pillar, and it's all about adult basic education and helping underserved and underrepresented populations get to the table and be in those education and training modes for their first-time jobs and opportunities. And it's all about diversity, access, inclusion, and equity. And that pillar is the one that is all about today. The member drop-in is focused around pillar number 4. And I will gladly introduce our president of our board in a minute. He is one of the most outgoing and engaged presidents we've had in a long time. And we had our 2022 conference last year, a return after COVID at Rowan Cabarrus Community College in North Carolina, where Craig Lamb is Vice President of Workforce Development. And I want to turn it over to him. Craig, without further ado, would you take the lead and give a quick overview and introduction, and then introduce our panel? Thank you very much for being with us.
Well, thanks, Craig. Good afternoon, everyone, and I apologize for being late. I had some technical issues here, but I think I resolved them in the nick of time. I think I just went sliding into the room with about 4 seconds to spare here. So, I appreciate y'all being here today and look forward to the information we're going to get today. You know, these conversations are one of the ways that NCATC connects with its members to advance our 4 pillars that Craig was just talking about. We do this through bringing subject matter experts, but also recognizing and leveraging your own expertise and experience. Today's topic is DEI, and I wanted to acknowledge that in many parts of our nation, DEI initiatives are under attack. I won't take time in this forum to delve real deeply into that topic, but I recognize that the added burden that this represents, these attacks represent, to an already complex and sensitive topic for our institutions is something we need to be keeping our eye on. So I'll be putting in the chat in a minute a link to an article that I found that identifies some of those threats and also includes some actionable takeaways that you can use to help bolster your own DEI initiatives. So I'd like to move to introducing our talented panel today and our panelists. All of them are directors of on the board of the National Coalition of Advanced Technology Centers, and they're bona fide leaders in workforce development. So I'll get on with those introductions. Scott Lucas is Vice President for Aviation Manufacturing and Institutional Effectiveness at WSU Tech in Wichita, Kansas. Scott, give us a wave there. There he is. Tony Ponder is provost at Sinclair Community College in Dayton, Ohio. There's Dr. Ponder. And Matt Janison is vice president of business and workforce solutions at Gateway Technical College in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And that's right over there. Our moderator today is Alicia Uday, who is the Polytechnic Program Outreach Director at Bismarck State College in Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm sure it's warm and toasty there today.
No.
No.
Not even close.
But Alicia, the floor is yours, and I look forward to hearing from our panelists. So thanks.
Thank you, Craig. So as Craig mentioned, my name is Alicia Udy, and I will be monitoring today's session. So before we do roll call, we would just like to mention that we really want this session to be engaging and to have an open conversation with all of you that have joined us. And so we're going to let each of our panelists share their story with you, and then at the end we will have time for questions. So if you want to jot your questions down, you can either type them in the chat, or we will have the option for you to actually ask your question on your own, which we would prefer to hear your voice and what that question is at the end. And we will do that through just virtual raising your hand, and we will call on you and you can ask your questions of the panelists. In addition, as challenges are identified during today's session, if you have any input on that challenge, or if you've addressed that challenge some way, we'd like to hear from you for you to share your story with us. And so that it will also be an option we have at the end. So with that, I will do roll call. I will say your first name, and then if you would be willing to introduce yourself and tell us your name, your position, and who you're with. And as Craig had mentioned, if you want to turn your camera on, we'd love to see your face too. So I will get started with roll call. So we have, I'm going to use the list that was provided. Is Peter with us today?
Yes. Hi, Peter Jensen, Operations Coordinator and Grants Project Manager at Lorain County Community College near Cleveland.
Great. Tony?
Good afternoon, Tony Ponder. I'm Provost at Sinclair College.
Is Tony Neri on the call? And I apologize. I'm like working in a small office remote today, so I don't have multiple screens. So, no. Okay. Sandy Goodman? Okay. Amy?
Hi, my name is Amy Howell. I am a program developer at Lorain County Community College. I work on Earn and Learn strategies, as well as I am the interim program manager for Ohio TechNet, which is a consortium of universities, community colleges, and career tech centers to help fill that pipeline.
Great. Liam?
Yes. Hi, I'm new to the group here, Lim Trung. I am with the Nano Dimension, which is the advanced manufacturing company. I recently met Craig McAfee at the conference, AACC conference, a couple months ago, and so we just recently submitted the application to join the group here. And one of your current board members is actually the vice president of the community college here in Massachusetts, and she suggests that I should join the group just to learn. So I'm new, totally new, and my role is the manager of strategic workforce for Nano Dimension, and our goal is really trying to get our technology out to the community colleges to promote this additive manufacturing electronics. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Great, welcome. Catherine.
Hi, this is Catherine Ross, Director of Smart Force Development at AMT, the Association for Manufacturing Technology. Probably several of you are familiar with my boss, Greg Jones, VP of Smart Force Development here at AMT. We represent about 700 plus US-based builders and distributors of manufacturing technology. So manufacturers first and foremost, but also selling to all other manufacturers across the country. And we have been a strategic partner of NCATC for like 12 years or so now. So glad to be here. Thanks.
Thanks. Stephen.
Hi, everybody. This is Steve Catt. I'm president of Workforce K to Gray, former workforce director at Butler County Community College for many years, and then former deputy director of education workforce at ARM, and a couple of other things in my past. But pleased to be here and good friend of NCATC for a long time. So thank you.
Stephen?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Steve Lair, and I'm starting my video there. Okay. Festo Didactic, replacing Tony Oren, unfortunately, who has left the company and has gone on to pursue other endeavors. So I am the Director of Business Development. Festo Didactic has been a longtime partner with NCACT, and I'm looking forward to supporting as well as Tony had in the past and continue our great relationship.
Great, thank you. Is there anybody I missed? Okay, well, with that being said, we will get this panel started. So as I mentioned before, you can use the chat to share with us possible resources, questions that you might have, and look forward to an engaging conversation after our panelists finish. So I will now turn it over to Matt.
Thanks, Alicia. Good afternoon, everybody. So Matt Janis at Gateway Technical College from Kenosha, Wisconsin. The area that we were sharing this quarter for the fourth pillar was the work that we're doing with justice-involved individuals. So it kind of falls under the umbrella of never let a good crisis go to waste. So with the workforce shortage that we were seeing even prior to the pandemic, but certainly exacerbated by the pandemic, it has really opened the eyes of employers who maybe have been hesitant to this pool of talent to really open up and kind of embrace it. And now they've really gotten a good scenario that they're leveraging more and more. So Gateway's been doing this for a long time. We do multiple different opportunities. So we have Racine Correctional Institute, which is a medium security prison. So those folks don't get let out for work release or training. So we go inside the walls to deliver curriculum and content there. Always work with our local employers first to make sure that those folks are going to have an opportunity in that industry sector. Last thing we want to do is set up any false hopes and train people for jobs that they're not going to legitimately be able to attain upon release. So computer numerical control, CNC operator is very big in Southeast Wisconsin as a whole, almost an insatiable demand in that area. So that is a common one that we leverage and utilize. And that is one that we teach inside RCI. But starting in 2018, we had a unique opportunity with a women's minimum security facility, Ellsworth Correctional. So they actually come to our campus for 4 or 5 hours a day, and they earn the first semester of our technical diploma and earn a CNC operator certificate. So very, very interesting to get more females involved in manufacturing and machining. And what we have found out, and certainly our employers have come to love, is the meticulous attention to detail and willingness to follow directions and take direction that many of our female participants show. And they have been very sought after now. So we have cohorts of usually a dozen or so. And we've now had larger companies come in and hire all dozen of them at one time upon graduation and getting them right to work. So we've been doing that now for a number of years. We've actually had a number of those ladies be able to go out, get supervisory and management roles, and they now come back and actually tell their story to their counterparts that are still in the program, kind of provide that shining light of this really is your opportunity to be able to change your life and really have a second chance and really sometimes a first chance for a lot of these individuals. So that's been very rewarding. And then we've done another segment with Kenosha County. So basically a men's cohort in the evenings. And our latest one has been actually with a youth offenders facility where we've done a mechatronics program. We hear a lot about Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing. You're going to need mechatronic technicians to make all of that work. So these young men get an opportunity to learn a whole bunch of robotics and automation, and Industry 4.0 technologies and come out with a certificate. They now have been coming out making 25 to 30 bucks an hour typically upon release. So really starting to change for generations their opportunities for them and their families. So that's been really good for many different demographics, but also over that umbrella of incarcerated individuals, giving them that opportunity. And now that employers have had a good experience with it, not that I expect the labor shortage to really change anytime soon with population and demographics the way they are, but I think even if there was a softer labor market, employers would still tap into this pool of talent because a lot of those stereotypes have now been broken because of necessity. It's something that will serve us and them for a long time coming. I will turn it back over to you, Alicia, and/or I think Tony, who's ever going next.
Thank you, Matt. Yep, Tony, if you want to present to us.
Thank you, Alicia. So again, Tony Ponder, I'm the provost at Sinclair Community College, which is located in Dayton, Ohio. So I wanted to just share a few quick overview about Sinclair so that the folks on the webinar have a better understanding as to what we're about, what our capabilities are. I think one area that I want to highlight first is our mission statement is find the need and endeavor to meet it. And so Sinclair has been doing that since 1887 by providing high quality, affordable education to students in over 300 certificate and associate degree programs. Many of the programs that we initially founded were actually focused around in the skilled trades area, such as in blueprint reading or automotive technology. And again, that's an area that this organization well knows and understands the value of. A few other key exemplars about Sinclair. We serve about 30,000 unique students each year. I mentioned our associate degree and certificate programs, but we also have 4 bachelor degree programs. The 2 new ones that we're getting ready to launch is Bachelor of Science in Nursing completion, as well as Integrated Systems Technician, which that program combines a blend of cybersecurity as well as robotics. So we're really excited about that new offering and our ability to serve the needs of manufacturing companies here in the Dayton region, since it builds off of our associate degree program in robotics, actually. We have about 1,000 full-time employees as well, so we are a large, comprehensive community college. With respect to the varied ways that Sinclair is focusing and supporting students in diversity, equity, and inclusion, there are a number of key programs I wanted to highlight. First is our Women in STEM program, which provides students the opportunity to explore their interest in STEM. We do that every summer and focuses on middle school aged young women. And then we have been participating in a grant activity called the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, or LSAMP. And that program, again, is focused on what can we do as an institution, actually a community of institutions. There are 5 other community colleges in Ohio that are also supporting this initiative in terms of how we can get more of these students of color to complete programs in STEM. So that has been a very exciting undertaking that we have been participating in for about 5 years. On top of that, our office, our diversity office, and our Center for Teaching and Learning provides over 200 workshops and book reads and moderate discussions around professional development for both our faculty and staff to participate in, to help them better understand the varied and complex factors around race and equity. Additionally, something that our Vice President for Administration recently kicked off was a supplier diversity program. This program seeks to grow and develop opportunities with certified small and diverse-owned businesses from the Dayton region. So networking with those small businesses throughout the Dayton region to see how they can work with Sinclair to take care of our very broad and diverse needs in regards to goods and services. And then additionally, I wanted to also highlight our work around Flex Factor. I see Peter and Amy from Lorain County Community College. Lorain is actually the lead on this grant activity. So the particular goal of this grant is really around what can Sinclair and other community colleges do in Ohio to greater or better meet the needs of manufacturing companies in those hard to fill areas such as machining or robotics, supply chain. And one program that we have been really excited about is Flex Factor, which is a collaboration with NextFlex. And this program provides students the opportunity to learn more about entrepreneurship and flexible hybrid technology. It's really exciting in that it's really career development, career exposure. So the students are exposed to the career opportunities in manufacturing by means of a project. So the students have to research a problem that they're trying to solve, one that they're really passionate about, and then they have to identify a product that could actually solve the problem. And then they have to develop a business plan, and then they pitch their product to a group of sharks. That those sharks are usually local industry experts or it could include experts from higher education. Last year, Sinclair hosted our regional competition. So our Lieutenant Governor showed up and provided a welcome. Both the Lieutenant Governor and Ohio's Governor has been very supportive of manufacturing and doing everything that they can to help not just community colleges, but also career tech centers engage and expose students to opportunities in manufacturing through participation at a career tech program. Sinclair's had about 600 high school students participate in the Flex Factor program. So they visit a manufacturing company and they also visit Sinclair to learn about what our capabilities are. So that's just a very quick snapshot in terms of the work that Sinclair has been doing around diversity, equity, inclusion, and also supporting the needs of manufacturing companies. So back to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Tony. Last but not least, we have Scott next to share a few kind words.
Hi, everybody. Again, Scott Lucas, Vice President, Aviation Manufacturing, Institutional Effectiveness at WSU Tech. I do win the award for longest title, and it does fit on a business card, but just barely. WSU Tech, so we are a comprehensive technical college, and the WSU, so we are affiliated with Wichita State University, but we are two independent institutions. The affiliation actually just lives at the governance level. So we share a president, but everything else we are independent. Our missions are very separate. So, to Tony's point, as far as missions of the institution, pretty much anything that we do as a technical college, the drive that we do, we always ask ourselves, what's best for the student and what's best for industry? I mean, that's really from a technical college lens, that's really kind of what drives our decisions. And so as we layer in, more and more diversity, equity, inclusion, and we add access into our statement as well. Again, student and industry, and we really look through that lens to make those decisions of what's best. And so our history of DEIA isn't real long, honestly, as far as institutional priorities. And so we had the opportunity a few years ago, about a decade ago, actually. So the state of Kansas put together a program, and it actually started in high schools where they would pay the tuition and fees for any student that took career or technical education in a high school. They were in career or technical education for college credit. The state of Kansas essentially would pick up the tab for their tuition and fees. So at WSU Tech, we, as one of the few urban institutions in a rural dominated state, made the decision that the access piece of that was important to us. And so we essentially said, not only our tuition and fees are important, but lab fees, overall fees. The state added another layer to that, thinking, well, high school is important, but also, you know, those that are in high school completion programs. And that's really kind of the start of where I'm going with this, because the history of our institution is adult education actually lived with WSU Tech in our history. And we made a strategic decision about 13 years ago to actually partner with Goodwill, our local Goodwill Industries, so Goodwill Industries of Kansas, to deliver adult education. So we kind of shared that with Goodwill Industries, and we started a separate entity called the Next Step Alliance. So adult education, so that would be GED completion, basic adult education skills, and English as a second language. And so within this state program, for anyone that's an adult, or even, you know, high school that doesn't want to be in high school, that's GED completion, to earn that high school equivalency, they would enter into these programs, and that state program essentially pays out the same way. They would cover their tuition and fees if they're in any career and technical education field. So I can't take credit for it, but Next Step Alliance came to us, and they've come to us many, many times and say, we want to do technical programs and do different things. And my answer is like, great, how are we going to do it? And the answer is like, we can make it work. But in this case, they had just this unique idea of, hey, we want to work kind of along the line of where Gateway went, and they want to help industry, but at the same time, they want to help this special population get access to a specific technical field that they've never had access to. And so they had been approached by our local county parole board to say, have we ever considered giving opportunities for those that had been released? So in Matt's case, that in at least kind of what he described and where they started, you had local Department of Correction facilities. In Kansas, we cannot provide career and technical education if they're not in our service area, and my service area is only my county. There are 105 counties in Kansas, and I only get one. So there are no Department of Corrections in our county, but what we do have is, again, a large urban area. We have 500,000 people that live within our county. And so the number of those folks that are on parole or probation is quite large. And so the Next Step Alliance said, you know, we'd like to provide access to these folks. Can you do something? And it just happened that the prior year, I had got tired of our welding industry coming to us and say, we need this, we need numbers. And I had actually worked with our faculty to completely redesign our welding program. We created a fast track welding program, 1 semester, 1 welding process, and it could get done. They would get all of that welding process, so level 1 and level 2 within that 1 semester. We had also expanded our physical presence in our welding lab from 20 booths to 27 booths. So we had given ourselves a little bit more capacity, because welding is one that physically you're limited capacity wise. And so I said, you know, let's give this a shot, because I truly believe in giving access to this. And welding is one where frankly, I can't produce enough graduates. I can't produce enough folks that have those skills, because industry is always hungry for more and more workers. And I want to give these folks a chance. And so it did require us to invest dollars in additional personnel. So we did have to hire an additional adjunct to put this on, and we offered this in the evenings. And so there were, the Next Step got 10 folks that were just released out of the system, or had been released for a while. So they were either on parole or probation, to sign up for this program. And welding was all that we offered. And we really invested in the ability for this to happen, and kind of lessons learned, because we're starting a new curriculum. We started this new program sort of at the same time. I got a brand new faculty that started. So that very first semester, lots of kind of lessons learned along the way. Next Step's role in this is the program provides support for those students as they're going along. life support, success support. They do things like finance, banking. How do you do that? Showing up on time. So those employability skills, they're reinforcing those. All I'm doing is providing ultimately the career and technical education aspect of that. But it is truly the linchpin is that support, coaching. That next step is supplying through that. So we went through the first semester, started in the fall, and we had an 80% retention completion percentage on that. So got a few employers involved, and they ultimately fell in love with it. So second cohort, spring semester, another 10 signed up, and one industry partner hired all of those students before they even finished. They had bought into it that much. We finished 9 out of the 10, and it sort of just kind of took off like wildfire at that point in time as far as buy-in from the community. And that's really the important part. So more and more parole officers, probation officers heard about it, got on board, started connecting the dots. Year 2, very similar. Actually, that's when we came up with the name. So it wasn't named year 1. So year 2 is when the name came around. So it's called Unlocked is the name of the program. But again, that support skill, there is one individual that does that for next step. And everyone that knows this program will tell you she is the linchpin of this. But I have, I've had a couple of faculty that have been in there. They love it. They, integrated with the students and fell in love with the students. We do a graduation for these students by themselves, but we also, they earn a technical certificate just like any other student. We invite them to our commencement, and it is truly a celebration for these students. Because they're in next step, they are earning their GED high school completion at the same time. It's funded that way. It's absolutely zero cost for these students. At their own graduation, it truly is, there are no dry eyes in the audience, because the fact is life has thrown these folks curveballs every opportunity that they've been around. And so the fact that they've given support, they get support from Next Step, they get support from industry, they get support from us. So fast forward another year. So start of this past fall semester, we opened it up because frankly, we were putting students in welding that maybe, frankly, maybe they didn't want to be in welding, but that was ultimately the only opportunity that we gave them, and opened up other career pathways. So automotive, CNC, healthcare, short-term CNA, CMA, home health aid. We do intro short-term aviation programming, which is semester in length. And so we signed up an additional 10 on top of that. So we had 20 in the fall. And some of those, like for example, in automotive, longer term. So no longer just a semester. So now we have students that are going now. We have students that are going beyond fast track now. So they go to fast track, they finish fast track, which is an exit point, but they can go into the longer term certificate in welding if they want to. If they want to build beyond it's MIG is what we do in fast track. If they want to add on SMAW and do GTAW as far as the next processes and add on to that, those opportunities are there. We've added employer partners onto this. And from Next Step's perspective, the services and the coaching that they provide, personnel ultimately isn't cheap. So actually Bank of America came in and provided a corporate sponsorship that has now sustained that program over the next few years. And so I think, Matt brought up great points as far as once you get this off and going, what the employers have seen and the value that they see and the work ethic of these folks, and it's no different. It is absolutely no different than what we see, if it's not even above, because what they've scratched and earned so much compared to what we see in other examples of where they've been in life. And so we're in now our 6th cohort this spring. We started another 10, and we have no, it's endless right now. So population wise, I think, we continue to get more. We have a thing called Second Chance Thursdays that happens every quarter where if you don't have a bench warrant or something where you've lost your driver's license for some traffic violation or something, you can go there and they will give you a temporary license. So we've now started recruiting from that pool to say, hey, you have this opportunity to go there, to be part of this program, to go work with Next Step. And so it just has opened up and provided access within the community that didn't exist before.
Thank you, Scott. So now that our panel has finished, we want to open up the floor for any questions, or if anybody wants to share any information related to what has been discussed. You can raise your hand. In the chat, I noticed there was some conversation happening around how important those wraparound services are to these, students outside of the technical education. So I don't know from a panel's perspective if there's anything else you want to chime in around wraparound services that you have that maybe you didn't mention earlier. I know Scott mentioned it a little bit, but if you want to expand on anything, Scott, and then I'll also open up to Tony and Matt if there's anything else you would want to share in regards to wraparound services and the success of your programming.
Yeah, I can give you another example of a access inclusion program that we did where wraparound services were vital. Again, and it's in welding. So we were fortunate enough to be part of the AACC All Within Your Hands Metallica, and it was actually our very first one. And we did women in welding, and it occurred in the summer and it went into the fall, but that's where we really launched. That's where we launched our applied learning within that. And so the ladies would come in the morning, and in the afternoon they would actually go to the employer. But we then invested in an individual that we called a support coach, and I know we all have different versions of that on our campuses. And it does just take us that special personality and that special person in that coach role to help them walk them through this. And happy to say that the employer also engaged in that, because this was day one. So we're talking folks off the street. They're not welders. They're not even in jokingly welding terms, they're not grinders either. These are folks that are just learning basic skills, but the success coach is the one that's with them and walking them through and doing those things. So we have invested in the wraparound services at different levels for that. But when we start looking at how can we support these different non-traditional or underrepresented populations, I do 100% agree that whether you call it wraparound or support coach or whatever that terminology is, it is vital for the success of whatever that program might look like.
Craig Lamb, do you want to share?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so one of the things that I think in terms of this kind of an extension of what we've thought about with wraparound services is the notion of how to get employers involved in wraparound services and what that means. And so the kind of context that we grew it out of was the fact that we used to have happy dances here when a student graduated from a program and got a job. We'd say, okay, everything's going to be all right now. And the story didn't always turn out that way, that it wasn't always all right. And what happens a lot of times, and what we needed to go on an educational campaign with our employers about, was the fact that when people start a job, it creates a cash flow problem. If you're unemployed and you're taking care of your children at home or whatever, and all of a sudden you have a job, and you need to take them to childcare, and your transportation costs go up and your childcare costs go up. But your pay may be such that depending on the pay cycle and when you come into that cycle, it may be up to 5 weeks before you receive your first paycheck. And after 2 weeks of taking your kid to the daycare center, and without paying, the daycare provider says, hey, cash or go somewhere else. So those are the employees that the employers would say, well, they just quit coming to work. Well, why did they quit coming to work? Well, because the cash flow situation was created. So we worked with them to help them understand, meaning the employers, to understand that they play a role in helping to make that retention work. And in a lot of cases, it meant advancing paychecks. It meant purchasing some of these systems that allow people to draw down their pay sooner than their normal cycle would have been. It meant providing allowances or stipends up front to help them get that flywheel turning at the right way to help them to stay successful once they got the job. And our employers have been that work with us through this kind of conversation have become more sensitive to other kinds of issues about shift work and school schedules and all kinds of things. So we've helped to extend that wraparound service to include the employer and to extend beyond the day when we all go, hey, they got a job, you know. So that seems to have helped us with long-term success and repeatable retention for graduates. So something we're thinking about.
Thanks, Craig. That's very insightful. So I appreciate you sharing that. Tony or Matt, did you want to add anything?
I think another area that we can't afford to overlook is also in the area of mental health. You've been hearing a lot of conversation and discussion around that in terms of just the different challenges that, you know, whether it's students or employees are going through. The more that an institution can do to provide those resources available to their students or employees, the better it will be for, you know, both. And so Sinclair has invested in additional resources in order to support our students in terms of providing either free mental health services available to our students. We actually currently have 2 full-time employees devoted to that area, as well as accessibility counselors for those with mental health challenges. And then through these resources, as appropriate, we can also refer individuals to various agencies here in the region to help them, you know, cope, if you will, with the different challenges that they're facing. It just continues to be an ever-growing problem, actually.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tony. You know, one of the we tend to overlook that the pandemic brought a few positives. One of those positives for us is, and let's be honest, we all got some good funding possibilities. One of those possibilities that we leveraged was in this realm. We now provide in addition to mental health, which we've been providing, just general health. So we provide student access to essentially an insurance plan, a very, very low cost insurance plan that you know, our average adult age is 26, 27. They may not have that. They may not have done what, you know, really what they need to do. So we've provided that access to that at an extremely low cost that is subsidized, and it began subsidized through HERF funding that we're going to continue now and as a college. And so definitely, you know, thinking of the health of your students and it is a vital aspect.
Yeah, I'll just kind of piggyback on what both Tony and Scott were saying. So definitely it takes a village, right? So working with the employers, working with your organizational partners. So we've been pretty fortunate. We have our, you know, our folks on site at Gateway that are going to help with a lot of those life skills, success coach, again, whatever you want to call it. So doing mock interviews, getting employers to come in, interview all of the candidates. Again, especially our incarcerated candidates who probably haven't done an interview for a while. It is a mock interview, so they do get feedback at the end of what they did well or not well. But it also kind of becomes a first interview. And, you know, when employers are looking at who they may want to hire, you know, that's their incentive to come and do this for everybody. Department of Corrections has been really good. They have their staff and allocate their resources to help them do basic finances, transportation. We've all heard of this story that is somewhat cliche, but yet very true. A flat tire can not just ruin the day, it can ruin a job or a degree or whatever. How do you teach people to cope with those type of situations? So leveraging all of those different areas. And our local employers have also, some of them have invested in a like type coach because they have an invested interest in retaining the employees that they have trained. And they've learned now too, and have come to realize that, yeah, a flat tire could be the end of a very good employee. So let's give them the support that's needed for them to learn how to cope with those type of scenarios that we all deal with on a regular basis. So, it's been good again to have, those hard times really have people open their eyes and be more willing to hear and understand what it takes to support people for a longer term investment.
Thank you, Matt. Liam, did you have a question or want to share?
So I'm just curious about your recruitment. Do you have any challenges with recruitment to meet enough enrollments for your classes? Or how do you market it to the people to let them know that there are these type of good opportunities out there? Because many of our clients, are struggling or fighting good employees, and you are correct. I mean, they are hungry for more people. But I'm curious that, what kind of marketing efforts you have done to let people know that there are good paying jobs out there in this field.
Well, there's a couple of different aspects there. So for Unlocked, it's not the marketing aspect. It kind of goes to the reverse side of the support pieces, which is the student commitment piece. So it's not that there aren't enough people that are interested in and qualify for it. It's they have to be committed and they have to commit to it in a certain methodical way to sign up. And that commitment is part of it. And Matt, Matt just brought it up. Transportation is one of those. And so even though, being in an urban city, our buses end at 9 o'clock. Class ends at 9:30. So, how do you get home at night? And so, making sure that students do that. We have students that ride bicycles, frankly, that was their solution, and they continue to ride bicycles to class. And some of them bike miles and miles to come to class. And so that's a commitment. And so making sure they're committed to that. The other side of it, you take like women in manufacturing, and we've done that a couple of times as far as initiatives within grants. Those are difficult. Those are extremely difficult to get and recruit because you're changing the image of the field itself. And so, trying to drive that and really we have shifted that and started changing those perceptions in elementary, in middle school, in high school, so we can change that pipeline and what that pipeline looks in our community. And that's us and employers and the community partners and organizations walking hand in hand.
Yeah, Fred, to address a part of Liam's question was around recruitment too, and around specific populations. We've been challenged with that to find out how to build better trusted relationships with communities of color, and one of them that we've been particularly interested in is our Latino community. Partly because it is large and because it is underserved by us, but also because the projections show that in between now and 2050, that population will double in our service area. And so we need to get better at that. And so a program here in North Carolina called Avanza, which is related, which is associated with the White House program that I've listed here, provides a lot of good resources for outreach and engagement strategies for the Latino community. So we've found that very helpful. So hope you do too.
Just a
Craig, so
follow-up.
Craig, thanks for sharing that in the chat. Just a quick reminder, you can share resources in the chat with the team if you would like. So go ahead, Liam. Apologize.
And that last follow-up question, on the skill training side, do your school find that you train people to meet the skills that the industry is looking for? Or do you have any challenges? What type of challenges that you have in order to get your training ready to train people and make them ready for the industry needs? For instance, I've heard some of the schools that they have challenges of finding qualified trainers, especially in additive manufacturing. Is that true across the border? I'm just curious. And what are other challenges that you see or anticipate?
I'll lead off with that, at least from a higher education perspective. Really, my biggest challenge, despite the fact that students that complete our certificate programs or associate degree programs, whether it's machining, biotechnology, robotics, can command $55,000 a year jobs starting, we can't find people that are interested in going into those programs. We are challenged by the fact that also as a community college, it's like, well, I want to go to a university. And I get that. I went to Ohio State. I understand that. But it's, with as much effort as we do from the standpoint of career exposure and working with our partners, with College Credit Plus, which is a dual credit program here in Ohio, that's what it's called. We have 9,000 high school students taking college credit courses with us at Sinclair. But to get them to matriculate to Sinclair, you would think, with 9,000 students, well, it shouldn't be no problem. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. So, Liam, to your point, I would say, that's one of our biggest challenges as we're trying to meet the needs of employers. But then also at times, the challenge can be with employers not understanding that our students with an average age of about 30, they have families and they must work. And so they need flexibility. So for some of our students, they need the ability to work part-time. I can't tell you how many manufacturing companies I've visited where it's like, well, we need full-time employees, or, well, we have a union and the union won't allow us to hire part-time individuals. I understand those challenges, but you're also telling me you need people. So to me, it seems to be that there needs to be more effort on the part of employers being willing to work with either their unions or in some cases their own managers to be willing to explore other avenues such as part-time work or even apprenticeships. Apprenticeships can be another wonderful way in order to meet talent needs. But we find that to be, it's pretty much a one student, one business at a time kind of task, which it's kind of hard to scale and meet the needs when you're literally working with placing one student at a time at a company.
I would say everything Tony just said, because that
ditto.
pretty much exactly the same with Gateway. 6,500 dual credit students, trying to get a good percentage of them to come to the college is more challenging than you would think after they've already had that free investment of those college credits and everything. And I think, Liam, to your point too, it is tough finding instructors. I don't know many colleges that feel flush with technical instructors. Add a layer of complexity to that. I need a technical instructor that's now willing to go inside a prison and teach. Whole different environment, whole different situation, and just another level of unique individual that you find. Knock on wood, I have a couple individuals right now that absolutely love it, and it's kind of a personal and professional passion for them. But I would hate to have to go out and post that job and try to find it. And both of them could make much more money doing something else probably in a much easier environment than a correctional facility. So definitely challenges that keep us up at night. But again, what is best for those students and the return on investment for the community in doing that, just continually working to find ways and build that bench strength to do that is not an easy task, but one that we need to do.
Thank you. So with that, we are close to wrapping up. So I think I'll turn it back to Craig to round us off for today's webinar. And thank you to our panelists. Great information shared. I learned a lot. We just received a grant ourselves at Bismarck State College for a technical skills grant that incarcerated is one of our target populations. So I learned a lot and I appreciate everything that was shared today. So with that, I will turn over to Craig.
And I believe it's this Craig that you're turning it over to, because we always have this trouble in our board meetings. There's two Craigs. We also have two Tonys. So it's a fun thing. But I want to first thank you, Alicia, and Craig Lamb for getting this together, and our experts, Scott and Anthony, and I really appreciate Matt, all of you bringing real life. This is what we do now. Every quarter we have a newsletter that comes out. I put the link in the chat. You probably hopefully got it when it came out the middle of March. But we now, in these member drop-ins every quarter, turn those articles that these folks write into real live interaction with you. So that's our approach, and we want you to spread the word if you like it. Tell us if we could tweak it or improve it. We'd like to hear that too. We're always looking for improvement opportunities. But I really want to thank you all for being here and engage with our leaders in this field and real world practices. You know, one that didn't come up, another population is the autistic spectrum level 1, which a lot of you are already engaged with. Other things that started out in California, one of our partners in College of the Canyons, in a CNC program with the uniquely abled program, which is called, and you can find information in our newsletter about that as well. But that's another population that has totally been overlooked until this last decade to be involved in manufacturing and high technology jobs. They are very amazing at grasping the needs of what those jobs would be in the training, and they have a great work ethic as well. So there's a lot of stories around these underserved populations. We heard a lot of good things today. I just want to re-emphasize and amplify some of the things Tony just said about employers. I believe, because I spent 25 years in industry as a manufacturing engineer, I believe it's our job in colleges to educate the employers, because they need to understand what we've been talking about, is that if they're not part of the solution with us, they are continuing to be part of the problem. And I'll say that out loud in front of any employer, because I came from that background and I know what happens. If they understand our lingo, if they understand the programs, they can come in and help us tweak them and improve them. And then they have first dibs on the students that come out, right? You know, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that's our mission, is to help industry understand how do we work better together. And Scott and Matt and Tony, you all gave great examples, and thank you again. Just so you all know, we'll have our next quarterly drop-in on the 29th of March. It'll be focused around pillar number 2, which is all about work-based learning and apprenticeships and internships and entrepreneurship. So please mark that down in your calendars. And again, without further ado, I want to thank everybody for being here. This is recorded. It'll be on our website by next Monday. And if you want to share it with anybody, please do that. Craig Lamb, anybody else? Did I miss anything you'd like to say before we head out?
Thanks everybody for coming. Sorry I was late, and have a great rest of your day.